just before I was going to go live, and I had to go take care of it. And I didn't even realize that the notification was going up. So when I came back, it said 31 waiting. Whoa, that's quite amazing, actually. Hello, everyone. Today is the 17th of August, 2022. I'm Roy Potter. Welcome for coming here and listening to this little commentary that I'm going to do right now. Um, oh, is that right? Al Order, you've been watching me forever, even back when you were Mr. Comet Watch, I think it was. No, I've never done Comet Watch. Sorry, I've never done that. I started on YouTube in 2009. My first few things that I did were basically going over my book, The Crimson Thread, and giving history lessons on the first century and what was really going on around the origins of Christianity. So that was 2009. It was called Roy Potter QA then, just like it is now. Roy Potter QA, QA standing for question and answer. And I've just kept that, even though I could have changed it to the Potter Expositor, which I did for a while. But you'd still go to Roy Potter QA to find me. So anyway, no, I didn't do that one that you're talking about. And then I basically morphed into more political, military type things. But you can see those first few posts that I made back in 2009 if you go to the playlists above, and you can type in or you can click on religion series, and you'll see me talking about my movie, my book, and explaining the history and all that. So that's really when I started. Nice shirt, you say? Well, this is what I'm doing it for what it's worth, even though America is pretty well over with at this point, which is why I'm coming on tonight, because I wanted to give everybody a heads up, not that you don't already know, but I want to make sure that you understand some of the history that I've had dealing with what we are seeing right now. I need some water. It's really hot. It's about 95 degrees. All right. I don't have any links in the description box, but hopefully most of you have seen this about the 87,000 IRS agents that are being hired and trained by the Biden administration under their new act, supposedly the Inflation Reduction Act, which is exactly opposite to what it really is. As usual, I have to be careful about what I say so I don't get this taken down, although it probably will anyway. I always anticipate it will when I talk about these things. But you should have seen some of these videos that are on Twitter or on YouTube. I don't, again, have any in the description box. I wasn't sure if I wanted to do that because of the people that were actually putting that up. I think some of them were actually videoed by the IRS or news people themselves. But regardless, I didn't put them up, but you've probably seen them. Are you looking at the recruits that are going into this? Are you looking at the lack of intelligence and education and ability, and how their lack of physical condition, their lack of mental competence that they're putting in there? Are you seeing this? And they're training them to come and arrest people for any number of things, supposedly for tax evasion or whatever. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Marxist. The entire thing with the income taxation and the way they've changed the definitions and all, this is Marxism now coming to fruition, and nobody in our government has stopped this. They've pushed it. I'd like to comment on and I will, Mike Pence saying that anybody calling for the dismantling of the FBI is wrong. No, it's not wrong, Mike Pence. You have failed to control these people and to keep them out of our lives. Just saying that up front, okay? So everybody knows. All right, yeah, taxes are never temporary. It's just like, when they build a new bridge or something, they have a toll, to pay for it supposedly. Well, the toll never goes away, and then they siphon that off, not just for maintaining the bridge, but for whatever other black things that they're doing. Okay, let me get back on the information here. So the entire IRS thing is Marxist in origin, all right? It's a way to get to you and to steal your property, to steal your livelihood, to steal your lives, and even imprison you not based on law, but based on regulation. And David Knight did a wonderful piece on that this morning. At any rate, when I saw these training films of what these IRS recruits are doing, I was appalled at what I was seeing. I've been through real training, police and military, and what's going on there is nothing short of saying that you're just a domestic violent extremist if you have a disagreement with the government on your taxes. That's what this is. So, I viewed these videos. Hi, Jesse. What are you saying here? The feds will trigger hyperinflation. All loans will be too high to pay back. Land taxes will. Yeah, exactly. This is Marxism. This is, if you remember, Stalin starved out the Ukrainians back in the 30s and 40s. Do you remember that? Of course, well, you and I probably don't remember it, but in history, that's what he did. And he stole their land. And that's exactly what's going on now. And nobody in our government is doing anything about it. Nobody. As a matter of fact, most of them are going along with it. And even the rhinos, even the GOP that are complaining about this, Rand, Paul, Ted Cruz, whoever, all of them, my Senator John Barrasso, and my part-time Senator Mike Lee, I mean, they're not standing up against this. And everybody's saying Trump's going to fix it when he gets in. Trump's part of the problem and always has been. He signed back to renew the Patriot Act. He shouldn't have done that. He should have refused. But like everything else, he's got an excuse. Let me get back on the subject at hand. So when I saw this going on, first of all, I knew about the IRS hiring 87,000. I knew about Biden's executive directive on domestic extremism and how anybody basically that goes against the establishment is in that category, which is exactly what we've been seeing for years anyway. It's just getting worse and worse all the time. I covered this back on several videos over the last 10 years. Actually, the first one I probably did on it was about 2013, right around the Boston bombing situation. Just so you know, I was one of the very first commissioned officers to go through the Army Terrorism Counteraction course. And I've talked about this before. And I'm bringing it up because I want you to see how this has morphed. Because I knew it would. I predicted it when I went to the course. I was appalled at what I heard. Because it wasn't about the Munich, slaughter of the Israeli athletes by Muslim terrorists, Islamic terrorists. That's not what our whole terrorism thing has been about. It's been about testing these procedures in foreign lands so that they could come here and do it to you and declare you a domestic extremist for any number of reasons. And the one that's going to be the most likely is people who are having issues with their taxes in the IRS. Because you don't have any rights there. You're not innocent until proven guilty. You're automatically considered guilty, and then you have to prove your innocence, which is totally wrong. If the government's coming after your property, I don't care how they pass these laws on regulatory agencies. If it's the government coming after you, you have the right to Fourth Amendment and Fifth Amendment and all of that privileges and rights, rather, not privileges, rights. But they try to get around it because they're an evil government. So getting back, and I warned about this. I was even doing news interviews about this, and I could have gotten in trouble for it. I'm surprised that the Army never came after me. Now it doesn't matter because all this is out in the open, and it's been years and years and years, and military intelligence, all that stuff, military police, all my commissioning, all that stuff, it's all past now, and a lot of this is public anyway. When I went to this course, there wasn't there's one definition of terrorism, but the different descriptions of it were appalling. It wasn't about the guys with the hoods killing people for political or ideological reasons. One, and I've said this before, just one, I could name a whole bunch of them, just one of the definitions of a terrorist was this. And I heard this in the Army Terrorism Counteraction course in the 80s. Number one, you do not get a W-2 because you're self-employed. In other words, you don't work for somebody else. You do your own books. You're your own boss. Number two, you have 2 weeks supply of food available to you. Number 3, you have a firearm. Almost everybody in the country can be considered a terrorist. And I've talked about this before. When they say that they arrested somebody because they're a domestic terrorist, they could be using that definition, and there are more like it. So almost every American can be considered a domestic terrorist, a domestic violent extremist, merely by definition, not by what you do. Not that you're doing any plot or anything, but just because you meet those parameters and you have no say otherwise. So, concentrate on that first thing. You are self-employed. You don't get a W-2. You file a 1099 or whatever it is, right? When you're self-employed or you're an entrepreneur, right? You have your own company, farmers, those types of things. If you have 2 weeks supply of food, and that's very arbitrary, 2 weeks supply of food for some people, 1 can of food a day, right? They could define it that way. And then owning a firearm, you're automatically a terrorist. So right now, the IRS is being, and it has been for years, but we're seeing an escalation of this, of an occupying army, not just the FBI, not just the ATF and all these other illegitimate 3-letter agencies, but the IRS is now targeting you because they're coming after your property, your bank account, no matter what. And I saw these guys pretending to arrest people, and I was disgusted beyond measure. This is what America has become, is the Union of Soviet Socialist America. And Russia, that used to be the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, is now more American than we are. We have become the enemy that we supposedly were standing against. So this is not fooling me. And any Republican, actually any representative or senator or government agent or government official that goes along with this is violating their oath. And they are making war against you. And you have no recourse. If you defend yourself, they just prove their point. You're a domestic extremist, domestic violent extremist, because you're defending your life and your property against an illegitimate, unconstitutional, Marxist activity by the government. I saw this 40 years ago. Not quite, but almost. Is it 40 years ago? Heck yeah. That's been not quite 40 years ago, about 36. I don't want to hear everybody saying Trump's going to fix it. Lionel's got it right. The only way that we can get around this is by organizing locally in neighborhoods, communities, hopefully with the backing of the county sheriff, but I know there are not many that will back this kind of thing. You have every right in the world to protect yourself against this onslaught of illegitimate, illegal, unconstitutional government. But they're sending these uneducated, physically challenged, mentally challenged, I don't want to say that word, right? They're, the WOK, right? That's their army, just like the BLM was, Antifa. And now they've got a government agency. They don't have to have an army working for the FBI and the CIA and the State Department, etc., the ATF, etc., that they're funding on the side like BLM and Antifa. Now they've got them in the government as supposed agents. Law enforcement? No, they're not law enforcement agents. They're regulatory agents and enforcers of a regulation. Your government is your enemy. What else can I say? And I saw this happening, and I was very vocal about it. I remember going on news shows, not right away. It was about in the 90, 92, 90. Let's see, was it that late? No, it was probably even earlier. It probably was 90 or 91. I went on a couple of radio shows and I explained that this situation was occurring. You know, this was basically uh, it was classified information, but it was uh, uh, confidential at the time. It wasn't secret or top secret, but it was confidential. And I had to talk around it to avoid saying things that I can say about it now, okay, when I talked about it then. But I warned people about it, and nobody paid any attention. Oh, the government would never do that to us. Even the radio announcer, oh, Roy, you're out of your mind. You know, they're not going to do that. Yeah? Well, here we are. Not only if you disagree politically with the powers that be, and that's not just going to be the Democratic Party. It's going to be the rhinos. It's going to be any public, any party. Any party that's in power is going to do this. And it's going to be tit for tat. And you're going to be in the middle, and you're not going to have friends on either side. Sorry, I got tongue-tied there. I need some more water. I went out for a walk today. Yeah, I think most of you know, out on my camping trip, I kind of messed my knee up. I broke it when I was in the Army, my right knee and both ankles, actually. And, you know, I try to run and do things like that, but it was getting sore. And out on the camping trip, I had a nasty fall and really tore my knee area up, ligaments and muscles. So today was the first day I went out and tried to walk. And I walked about, I did pretty well actually. I walked about, because, you know, if you don't exercise, the physical therapist will tell you this, if you have that kind of an injury, you can't just lay in bed. You can't just not use it. You have to be careful. You don't want to go too overboard, but if you don't train that muscle to remember how to work, you'll be crippled before long. So I try to follow what I know to do on physical therapy for myself anyway, and get out there and exercise a little bit, even though it's a little uncomfortable. So anyway, I was out in that heat and I'm a little dry mouth. So pardon me. They've declared war on us, ladies and gentlemen. In depth and in full spectrum dominance. The government's no longer here to protect you in your God-given rights. They're saying that your privileges only come from government, that you have no God-given rights, that the government can give them to you and take them away. And that's not what our charter, our agreement with this government was about. And I know most of you know that. But this is serious. This is Stalinist, Marxist, Leninist, Maoist attack on you. And they sell it by, oh, we're going to get it from the billionaires. Do you need 87,000 agents to go after the, what, few hundred billionaires in the country? No. So I just wanted to tell you, I saw this coming in the 80s when I went to that school. I complained about it. Even then, I've always been a voice that said, hey, wait a minute. I was a captain at the time, and a major was teaching, I think it was a Marine major, if I remember. And I said, excuse me, Major, sir, this is way open-ended, and it's going to be used as a weapon against the American people. And you want to know what? He didn't deny that. He didn't deny it. He just kind of glossed over it. Because he wanted his paycheck and his pension, his retirement. So here we are. The enemy's array is now set, and they're sending this again, mentally challenged, physically challenged, I'd like to say some other things, but again, I got to watch my words. But you see what's happened in the schools. You've been watching the sexual transformations that they're condoning, pushing. You've seen the statement that all whites are racist regardless, and they by definition they are. And they even extend that to other races who believe the same things about liberty. They'll even call them, those things. Division, and they're coming to destroy the bourgeoisie, the middle class, just like the Marxists have done everywhere they've gone. And nobody's going to stop them. And we get 1 or 2 or 14, maybe 24 FBI agents, for instance, that are supposedly blowing the whistle. Jim Jordan says. Jordan's a big mouth anyway. He talks a lot and never does anything. Oh, he can't do anything. He's not in power. When they were, they didn't do anything. It's all talk, just like Trey Gowdy. These people are not your friends. They're not your allies. They are your enemies. Absolutely 100%. They are after your sustenance, your substance, your land, your money, your kids, and your very lives. Look at those training videos. Look at these people that probably couldn't figure out how to cross the street by themselves. But they'll follow orders. Go to that guy's house and, demand that he do this or that. And if he gives you any trouble, kill him. And that's exactly what their recruiting poster said. They've removed that part of it now, but I put it up not too long ago. It said, be willing to carry a firearm and to arrest people and use deadly force. Police departments don't even use that in their recruiting posters or job descriptions. The military doesn't say, yeah, join us so that you can go to foreign lands and see foreign places and see foreign people and kill them. They don't even do that, but it was in an IRS job recruitment description. They know exactly what they're doing. And they're going to kill a lot of us. They're going to imprison and kill a lot of us with this. You have a political point of view that they don't like. You will be targeted just like they were under Lois Lerner, who pleaded the fifth, and nobody went after her. They will come in and they will find some little thing. It doesn't even have to be legitimate. They can just make an accusation because then you have to prove you're innocent, and you can't. You can't. Not without spending lots of money, if you can even do that. And if they throw you in jail, then you can't do it at all. And the attorneys are going to back away from this, I'm telling you. The attorneys don't want to get involved in this because it's a can of worms, and they know it. They don't want to be victims of the IRS either. We have no advocates out there. I hate to paint this bleak picture, but you've got to understand the awful situation that you're in. And Trump is right there with them. Oh, he's talking all. Have you heard him talk about the IRS doing this? I don't think so. I haven't heard anything, and it doesn't matter anyway. Oh, we have to get the House and the Senate back, the Republicans. They never do anything anyway. No, it's time for states, competent state authority or county authority, to get behind the people and tell the federal government, no thank you. And if you come here, we're going to arrest you. Because we didn't ask you to come in. What do you think, Jesse? Are you still here? There you are. Let me see what you got. I must have missed it. What are your thoughts, Jesse, on this? I know I'm not, over-exaggerating. I know I'm not doing that. I'm not Chicken Little. I was trained to see the enemy when they're coming across the landscape or the wire. Figure out their order of battle. Figure out what their target is, what their objective is. And it's plain that we are the objective that's been designated for destruction. I haven't been following a lot of this. Doesn't it make sense, CERN? I don't want to talk about CERN. Okay, look. they've got so many things going on that you can't possibly fight all of it. Which brings me to another point. I wasn't going to bring this up, but maybe I should because it's been on my mind for the last few days. So I'm going to bring it up. I'm going to say it. Here we go on some spiritual stuff, but it's based on my own personal experiences and what a lot of people say, well, you just need to trust Jesus, trust Jesus, trust Jesus. Well, there's some truth to that, but you still have to do something on your own. You can't sit there. It's like I said, the old story about Joe who's poor. And, his wife's left him. He's lost all his money and everything. And he's crying to God. And, oh, what am I going to do? And the clouds part. And he hears God's voice saying, Joe, you're going to win the lottery. Well, a day goes by, a week, a month, a year. He still hasn't won the lottery. And he goes, God, you said I was going to win the lottery. What's going on? God's voice comes to him again and says, Joe, you got to buy a ticket. Well, it's the same thing with this. You can't sit around and wait for Jesus. I don't care what the Christians try to tell you. That's Roman propaganda to get you to do nothing. And that's the way it was formulated back in the first century, and that's how it's been conducted over the last 2,000 years. I'm not going to get into, all the turn the other cheek and all that, because most of that isn't what you think, and I don't feel like explaining it again today. Go back and look at my religion series, my Eisenman series, and you might get an insight. Yeah, it'll take you some time, but it might be worth it. But having said that, this is going to be, some people are going to laugh at this. As a matter of fact, I had some friends when we were on the camping trip. I told them this first story I'm going to say right here, and they said, "Oh, Roy, that was just a pronouncement to you about what your life was going to end up like. That you're going to be getting in all this hot water because of the way the stand you take and all that." Let me just tell you the story and what I've now gleaned from some of these experiences. So when I was about 3 years old, and I think I talked about this before, my grandparents lived on a farm in Virginia, my dad's parents. And I had just been potty trained. It's one of my earliest memories. And we went out to the farm, and they had an outhouse, right? There was no indoor plumbing. I think they had a pump in there for the kitchen sink, and that's about it. Everything else that you had to go outside for, right? Still the old farm type. And I went to my dad and I said, I got to do some business. What do I do? And he took me out to the mud porch and he opened the door and he pointed to the outhouse and he said, "That's it right there. Just go out there and you'll see what to do." I was 3 years old. Thereabouts. Well, I go, out there and open the door. I can still hear the door as I opened it. It was creaking. It goes, "Yee!" And I look in there and here's this bench with a hole in it. And I'm going, "Whoa." Well, I kind of figured out what it was, but this is the bad part. So I had to take care of number two business. So I took my pants down and I hopped up on there and I was edging back. You can see what's coming, right? I was edging back to try to, take care of it, and I slipped and I fell in. Yes, I did. I don't remember how long I was in there, a long time, but I remember I screamed the entire time. I can still remember the smell and the feeling. You can imagine. I didn't drown, which is really a miracle. After however long it took, I still remember looking up through that hole. It looked like about that big from where I was. And I could see my dad, and he looked down in there. And I could tell he was really disgusted, but he had to get me out of there. So he reached down. I don't know how he did it, but he finally got down far enough where he grabbed my left arm and he pulled me out. And he walked me into the house hanging upside down from one of my legs. And they put me in one of those old galvanized tin or steel tubs, and they scrubbed me down with lye soap. I remember that. Remember, I had to look up. I'd fallen into this. There's another statement, you can't go out into a cow field without getting shit on your boots, right? Well, you can't come to this world and not get shit on you, one way or the other. And this was a very early lesson to me that that's what this is about. And that my only real hope, I couldn't save myself. There's no way. There's no way I could climb out of there. There's no way I could have gotten out. I had to depend on my dad. I looked up and my dad came and got me out. First lesson. Second lesson. And I've never talked about this on camera before that I recall. And I'm not going to give a lot of the details, but I had an open vision in 1978. And again, these entities, and I knew who one of them was. And they said, first of all, called me to repentance, which, so I'm not getting patted on the back for being a good boy. And basically they said, clean your act up. And then I knew that two of the guys would kind of be watching over me. So I'm looking up again. Not much I can do. I'm still expected to engage and to do the best I can, but it's going to be tough. So, second time, I was in my bedroom. I was still in the Army. I was in my bedroom, and these two men walked into the room. Very bright. I'm really opening up to y'all now. A lot of you'll say, this guy's crazy, he's got epilepsy, we're out of here. That's all right. I'm giving you a testimony that there's something else there, something else here with us. These two men walked in the room, and I remember very, very distinctly having a conversation with them. I don't remember what we talked about. That was taken from me. But my wife at the time, my first wife, sat up in bed. I remember I saw her sit up as I'm talking to these two men who were standing at the foot of the bed. And as we finished, and she had been listening, she said, "Roy, you're talking in another language." And I said, "Yeah, I know. I'm talking to these guys." And she says, "What guys?" And I said, "Well, did you hear the words I was saying?" She says, "Yeah, you said this word." And she said it, and then I couldn't remember. But I think it was something very akin to Hebrew, as I recall. Anyway, that was the second time, and I knew I was going to have to depend on them. Third time, another type of dream vision this time, and basically I was seeing a stampede happen, and I was outside this particular building, and I was trying to climb up the building, but it was so dilapidated and broken, kind of like our country, kind of like our nation, kind of like most ecclesiastical organizations. Trying to climb up, and the bricks and the boards were breaking because they wouldn't hold my weight. And I looked up, and here are those two guys again, same two guys, and they lifted me up. I tell you the rest, but that's as far as I'm going to go. They got me out of danger. Another time, another kind of dream vision. I'm walking along. I'm kind of in this narrow gorge or valley, and this huge monster comes out of this cave. It's a cyclops, one eye. I can't get away. And the only way out of there is to run to my left, and there's obviously there's a net there. It's like a net, almost like fish would be caught in, that kind of thing. But I knew it was the only way I could go, so I went to run across it, and I got caught. And I couldn't get out. Well, here are these two guys again. And they had silver glass, I don't know how else to describe, crystal bows with crystal arrows that were flaming, and they shot their arrows at the beast, and then once the beast was done for and out of the way, they lifted me up again. Again, I was looking to somebody else. My own power couldn't do it. I'm down here, kicking shit around, getting myself all full of crap, and no matter how hard I try to get out of it, it's still going to be there. Because that's what this is. And I could go into a lot of philosophy about what it was before here and why this happens to us here. But the bottom line is that even though we're supposed to look to our Father in heaven for help, He expects that. That's the lesson. We still have to engage here. We still have to do what we can because it's our school, our experience, our proof to ourselves about who we are, despite the circumstances that we're in. All right. So that's where I am, and that's why I spend a lot of time studying. And I'm not dogmatic. This isn't the only thing, of course. I think personal revelation is actually better even than that. But if it gets too far off course from that, then you got to ask questions. But there's a way to tell if it's God or not. And I'm not going to get into that. There's a definite way to tell. It leaves no question in your mind. Because I've had both. All right. They're at war with us, ladies and gentlemen. This 87,000, they're coming for you and your sustenance, your substance, your belongings, your property, your children, and your lives. They're coming. And there's no justification for this, for the three-letter agency armies. We saw it at Bundy Ranch with the BLM, the Bureau of Land Management, what they were trying to do to the Bundys there. 200 soldiers, basically, is what they were. Armed soldiers with military weapons. And they complained that we were there documenting it, and there were a lot of those people there that were there to defend the Bundys from what they intended to do. It was going to be like Waco. It wasn't about taxes. It was about stealing the land and destroying the cattle. Does that sound familiar? Like what's happening now? You're going to eat bugs? No more nitrogen. You see that with the Dutch farmers going on right now. They're trying to, the Dutch and the Germans for that matter, farmers, are demonstrating, protesting against their government for shutting them down because of nitrogen? What? Do these politicians not know what the life cycle is? They call carbon dioxide a greenhouse gas, as if that's bad. It's about destruction of the food supply. It's about destroying, using the pollution that really the robber barons started. Not that there's anything wrong with they're not fossil fuels, with oil and those types of things, coal, etc. There's no real problem with that. It's the fact that they didn't clean up after themselves. That's the problem. And then they blame that on us because they want to keep their money. They want to steal from you. Am I talking about like a class warfare? I don't think that's anything we want. That's what they've been doing to us. And now Klaus Schwab, Yuval Noah Harari, all those people are waging it against us. And as I've said, I think Putin's standing against it. Not so much for us. He says he's president of Russia. I'm the president of Russia, not the president of the world, is what he says. And he's trying to protect his people. Who's protecting us? Our government sells us out at every opportunity they can and then steal from you to pay for their stupidity. Leaving the weapons in Afghanistan, sending weapons and money to Ukraine that nobody keeps track of. And now, not just the three-letter agencies of the ATF, the FBI, the DEA, et cetera, but the IRS has now got all these goons out there that will do the dirty work of Nancy Pelosi, Biden, Schumer, and other names on up the line. The banking system, the intelligence community. Where is our advocate? And I don't mean just somebody who gets up and says that, oh, mainstream media, you're fake news. Not that that isn't true, but if that's the extent of what you're going to do, that's useless. Because then you turn around this person, and you know who I'm talking about, renewed the Patriot Act, did red flag laws, bump stock bans, which an executive order is not supposed to be able to do. But they did it anyway, and then that set a precedent. And then OWS and all the other things I've talked about. Oh, but, he did this and he did that. Hey, it's a matter of degree. It's a matter of cowardice or courage. Don't think that he's going to save you. He betrayed you once, and he's setting you up to betray you again, if he even gets in. What about this Ron DeSantis thing? I don't know. I don't know. Sometimes I'm impressed. Many times I'm not. BP Earthwatch, are you still here? Or am I offline? I'm not offline, am I? Am I still 5x5, everybody? I should be off of here. I've been going for 42 minutes. And somebody let me know if I'm still up and running here or if all I'm doing is seeing chat. Maybe they already cut me off. And I've been talking to myself for the last 40 minutes. Yeah, I don't know. So I'll shut it down now. I don't know if I'm even live anymore. I noticed there was a problem when I first started, so maybe it's gone down. I see a lot of people on here, 711, 249. 249 thumbs up, and it seems to be changing, but I don't see any new chat. All right. I'm probably not live anymore, so I'm going to go out here.